Wait! I'm a what? Written by Artina Blackcharm. Chapter 10. Keep an eye on the boss. Summary. People see things with their eyes, like, they usually do. And with that, at least one question gets answered. After the incident where Danny officially created the observatory, there was barely a moment where he did not find someone with him. The little shadows, as Danny has taken to calling the kids, truly lived up to the name. Eric would stop by and address him before running off, no doubt to report to Sandra about his condition. Tick and Tack would be somewhere hiding near him until he called them out to join him in the light. Zipper would pass by his room or wherever Danny found himself and ask, "How you feeling, boss?" and wouldn't leave until he gave them a response. Then there was Jimmy, who would coincidentally be around wherever Old Man LJ threw yet another fruit or item at Danny. Then he found the only way to make Jimmy stop staring was to finally take a bite of whatever fruit it was. That or put on the growing collection of warm clothes he was gathering. Then there were the adults of the neighborhood. Already several times Patty had dragged him outside, never letting him linger for too long in any building, and when he asked why, she would say that it would catch hold of him like a haunted house. Gotham in particular practically tickled him with her amusement at that comment. Even more so when Patty stared hard around them, as if she could sense something was amiss. Patty had shown up in the apartment where he had been visiting Veronica and Alicia, ready to drag him out of it too. However, they stayed longer when Veronica offered Patty to try some pastries she had made. The whole time, though, Alicia watched him like a hawk, the image made more imitating as she was filing her nails at that time. It felt oddly reminiscent of when he saw Pandora sharpening her weapons. Then while he was out and about in the neighborhood, running errands or simply going rounds, sometimes following where Gotham would lead him, Danny would run across more people than usual. Martin came across him and would give him more looks of concern than he had seen come from him a couple of times before. Adrian would ask what he was up to, even though he was usually wary to ask about that, as if anxious about his answer. Then there was even Joe, who typically was silent, would make a noise of acknowledgement and almost question when they crossed paths. It reminded Danny of a blob ghost, funnily enough. They'd probably like Joe. It was noticeable, but not necessarily bothersome. Other than being continuously confused by Old Man LJ, Danny, as usual, was unfazed. After all, Danny knew the reason, and he understood. He didn't mind it. What he did mind, though, was how Gotham was delighted by this, and teased him relentlessly. "They really don't need to worry. I'm doing fine. And it's not like it will happen again," Danny said as he put down another card, and waited for Grundy to put down one. He ignored how he could hear the whispers of solar storms as he looked at the space-themed details of the card deck. The artistic renditions of celestial bodies drew him in as their real-life counterparts would have if he just. "Grundy here Sunday, not drink or eat for 3 days," Grundy said. He reached over their makeshift table and poked a finger into Danny's stomach softly. "Too small. I'm a completely reasonable size." Grundy simply hummed, and Danny had a feeling he was not believed. Which made sense, seeing as Grundy kept poking him, and then he could feel the concern coming from him. It was nice to know someone like him was worried about him. Grundy always called him Saturday, ever since he revealed that he had died on that day too. It was something they shared, and the first time Grundy called him that, Danny let him. Then he could tell that Grundy had been pleased by the permission given. It was nice to have a deaf body. Grundy finally put down a card. He saw the design of it had the Canes Venatici constellation. Grundy wins, even if that deaf body kept killing him in cards. Jason was trying to ignore whatever Roy was doing, as he basically told Jason weeks' worth of gossip, and his exact opinion on it. It was something that happened every time they got together. Roy always had a story to tell, and by whatever power there was, he was gonna subject Jason to it. If Jason tried to stop it whatsoever, it would only start all over, so Jason just learned to accept it. But he was getting twitchy as Roy inched closer to where Jason had his guns laid out to clean them. Jason didn't care how much he loved the idiot, but if he got any closer, Roy was going to find himself hitting the floor. There were rules to his guns, just like there was to his books. Though Roy would never get so damn close to his books ever, since that one time that shall remain unspoken of. Right, she and him got their shit together, so there was no big fight, though, Roy added with a smirk. I had to end up sneaking out after they seemed to forget I was there, and I wasn't gonna try to interrupt their making up, seeing as the machete was still nearby, and you know how dudes are about being caught with their pants down. Roy let himself drop into the seat near his table. He lifted his feet and rested them on top. Speaking of, I hear you have been looking into some stuff here in the alley. Jason had to remind himself that this part of Roy's personality was one of the reasons why they were friends, and he should keep bodily harm limited per week. Though that didn't stop Jason from wanting to take off his helmet and throw it at the asshole. Roy would probably think it was funny. Yes, he answered. But Jason knew Roy hated not being told more information. It was satisfying to hear the groan of annoyance and how Roy swung his feet off to hit the floor dejectedly. Is that really all you're gonna say, Jaybird? I just gave you prime info with all the juicy details. The last you can do is return the favor. I have my guys looking into it. Roy was unimpressed. You're no fun when you're in business mode. I'm loads of fun, Jason said, knowing that though the voice modulator, it made him sound ridiculous. See, he knew humor. He heard Roy's grumbling as he finally got to start disassembling his guns before they became silent. Which was suspicious, and of course, when he looked up, Roy was staring at him. So I take it you know Violence out? Roy asked. He had whispers he was spotted in that shootout during the storm a while back. Jason nodded. Told your old man yet? Fuck no, Jason said, making Roy smile. And Jason heard that Valen was out, and basically Arkham had no idea, and it wasn't making any sort of big news. He resolved to keep it under wraps, as long as possible. It wasn't often he had something over the old man. Also after that, and figuring out Valen just settled some old business before that, there wasn't much news on the big guy. There really wasn't any sign he was gonna be trouble, and Jason wasn't about to go causing any with Killer Croc. Jason remembered fighting Valen a long time ago. He'd gotten close to those sharp teeth and claws plenty of times, but as the years went on, Jason had become friendly, or more applicable, with the famed Killer Croc, especially after Valen helped out Roy when he needed it most. That made him more than okay in Jason's book, along with the fact that it seemed he was taking a route similar to Holly and Ivy. So Jason had no desire to inform the Bats about an escape or to interfere with Valen's business at all, by all his counts. It seems that Valen just wanted to be left alone and live his life. Jason could respect that. He would respect that. He owned that much of how he was able to still talking to Roy. You talked to him? Jason asked. Roy smiled. Yeah, came across him a while back, when he was getting some of his things. He looked good, really. I didn't think he was planning anything crazy or something that would end up with him hurt. Just looked tired, to be honest. So you're not worried? No, I think he will be okay. Maybe even made a few friends. That last part Roy said in a way that made Jason pause. Just as he was going to ask, the door to the room opened, and in walked Mateo. "Boss, Mateo paused at the sight of Roy. "How the hell did you get in? I swear we fixed up the security and blocked the vent you used last time." Roy shrugged. "I have my ways, and nothing's gonna stop me from seeing my very dear friend Mr. Hood here." "Nikolai could stop you." Yes, he could," Roy said, "which is why I avoid him, and will continue to avoid him." "Coward," Jason remarked, finally putting back one of his guns and starting on the other. He ignored Mateo's laughter and how Roy blattered on about betrayal, before, of course, turning the conversation onto Mateo. "He had a kid weasel some money out of you." Mateo ground like each time someone brought it up, ever since he came back and told Stan about the little improv negation he made with a street kid. "Come on, man. Was just trying to get the drugs, and the kids was saying some finders keepers thing. Wasn't gonna beat him for it. He was a brave dude since I'm such an intimidating guy." The two of them laughed, much to Mateo's annoyance. "Nikolai is imitating Angry Stan." "Hell yeah," Jason said, "but Mateo, you're not terrifying." Mateo crossed his arms. "I can be if I want to be. Don't need a red helmet for it." Roy snickered, and Jason just sighed. Mateo was smiling at him. "I'm telling you, boss, we love your ugly mug. Promise. Bet Roy here would give you a little kiss just by how much he visits you, all sweet-like." Egging Mateo on, Roy added, "Oh, for sure. Can't resist." The weight of the frame of the gun was light, yet familiar in Jason's hands. "I should shoot both of you." Roy just waved him off and smiled innocently at Mateo. "This is just how he shows his love." Mateo raised an eyebrow. "I really don't wanna know how the boss likes to Jason was rather quick when it came to assembling his gun, and Mateo was even quicker to run as Roy crackled. Villain found himself slowly but surely brought into the fold of people in the neighborhood, ever since essentially peeling Danny away from the ceiling like a cat. The residents looked at him with a newfound respect and appreciation. A big difference from the fear most Gothamites would have in his presence, or just with the knowledge he was nearby. But they didn't seem afraid. Instead, it was more that they aren't afraid that he would do something to hurt them. Which he wouldn't. Villain still remembered that first steal he made in the rain. He didn't mess with the people living around there, and he was free to stay. He kept up his end, while Danny did too, along with a few extra things that Chit decided to do, which apparently meant giving him food, and effectively the seal of approval in the eyes of the other residents, seeing as how they had started to treat him like a regular resident whenever he came across one of them. This wasn't often, as Valen still kept mostly on the ground, but it was noticeable enough, especially when some adults didn't dare stop that kid, Eric, from coming up to him to compliment his scales. So with more interactions on the top side, and running into people who didn't scream or try to fight once he appeared, Villain began to notice a name that kept being repeated. Bright Eyes. Villain had heard that name before. It had been from Miss Junie. Apparently Bright Eyes was the one who carried him to safety, away from anyone pointing a gun at him. How they did that, Villain didn't know, but Villain had been curious about the name of the person who took him after he had what he'd call a bad night. Whenever it came up, it was usually in reference to a problem someone had been having, or a task that needed to be done, about how they handled someone dealing on their turf or causing trouble, or just a question about what Bright Eyes was up to. Surprisingly, Villain was asking that question a lot. Either way, it seemed that Bright Eyes was a busy person, and the one who took care of things, someone who took care of the residents in the neighborhood, and whom everyone respected, which said a lot here in Gotham. Someone who, when Valen listened to more things said about Bright Eyes, and really thought about it, sounded like Danny. So when Valen had found himself helping Danny move some items from someone's apartment, and they needed something from Danny, he called out, "Oi, Bright Eyes!" He got his confirmation when Danny turned around, not at all swaying underneath the weight of the boxes filled with pieces of appliances in his arms. "Yeah?" There had been no hesitation or confusion. Danny answered easily to the name, even though it was the first time Valen had called him that. He looked at Valen kindly, waiting for an answer. He always looked at Valen that way. It meant more than he could say. "They have another box of some wiring, too." "Oh, all right. I will get that after dropping this one off." Then Danny turned back and kept on with his box, a bit faster than before, as if to hurry to get the other one. Valen simply watched, and when a few more tasks popped up, or gathering, he noted the position Danny slipped into, that of a leader, that person to go to for answers and solutions. No one hesitated to ask Danny for his opinions on making decisions, and Valen could see the difference that even the oldest adults would make to him. It was a sight to see, and Valen still had more questions. But it wasn't the weirdest thing in Gotham. Valen even thought about another crime boss who started off young, years ago, though Hood was never as skinny as Danny was. Scrawny chit.